Hey guys, Tyler2K here. Today we're going to take a look at the final tier list for Tekken 7. This is my opinion. Over time, people have been asking me for this, so I figured might as well update it now that Tekken 8 is officially going to be coming out in about 4 or so months. I figure we're probably not going to see a major patch, definitely not before TWT, which I think takes place in November, December. I can't remember like that. I can't remember exactly, but sometime later this year there will be the final Tekken 7 major TWT tournament, the Tekken World Tour, and then afterwards they might do one final patch. I highly doubt it. If there's some weird meta-breaking stuff, I'll go ahead and talk about that. But as of right now, that doesn't appear like it's going to be the case. So I figure this is it. I am basing my current list off of my prior list. So if you haven't checked out my Season 4 list, go ahead, top right corner to watch that, where I give a complete explanation of everything. But this list right now is basically, like I said, my S4 list, but I'm going to make some changes to it. I also came out with a Season 5 kind of thing afterwards. I never made a public video about it, but between 4 to 5, the characters on the bottom of the screen are characters who I've had major kind of better understandings of how their weaknesses and their strengths, and I figure it's time to properly reflect the characters who have gotten weaker and or stronger in the meantime. Apart from that, I'm not going to go ahead and talk about everyone. For the most part, people at the top of the list in the God tier, not quite God tier, once again, are characters who allow you to play your own game and, damn your opponent. They are forced to play your game regardless. There were a couple of characters who were up there, like Geese, for instance, is probably right on that cusp, but not quite God tier. But his nerfs in Season 4/5.0 are definitely significant. Also, for context, as of time of making this video, 5.10 is the latest patch, which is, I believe, 2 or 3 patches deep into 5. It's, keep in mind, it's not really explicitly a Season 5, but we're in Season 5 now. The only difference is we don't have any characters to go with it. So, again, basically the people at the top of the list are the hyper-dominant ones for people who've never seen a tier list in their life. Congratulations. It must be nice being born last month. Goo goo gaga sort of thing. And then at the bottom of the list are the characters who not only are forced to play the opponent's game, but have problems often executing their own game plan. Also, I should mention, the list is not ordered. It only is ordered right now as of my prior Season 4 list. That way there's better context as to where I had them. But for the most part, for instance, like Fang is probably better than most of the characters on Not Quite God, but he's on the back simply because I explained everything last time and it took over an hour. So hopefully we're only going to be here for about 30 or 40 minutes here. So apart from that, the only change you'll notice from the video is, I should have put King higher, and I did regret it as soon as I finished the video. King is solidly a mid-tier character. I think he definitely deserves to be higher than I originally placed him. Like I said, within, like, literally finishing it, I was like, yeah, it's probably wrong. Let's go ahead and throw King higher. Okay, so starting off with, originally, same thing for context. I had Jack in C tier, and the mentality was that Jack basically plays Tekken, but doesn't really play Tekken 7 too well. If you take a look at his frame data, very poor. 2-1 being +3. His counter at game starting on 14, unless you do 4-2. Overall, big problems. Now, granted, in Tekken 8, he's going to be significantly better. As of right now, he might even be top 5 in Tekken 8, but we're not in Tekken 8, we're playing T7. The only difference, though, is that I really didn't appreciate, and I haven't played against any really super strong Jacks in a while, but for some reason, Jack is a character who remains bugged. And the bug is, for some reason, his backdash, there's something funky going on with it. So whereas he can't sidestep in certain positions, his backdash allows him to escape certain amounts of pressure, in which case he can effectively launch you for it. So kind of similar to Yoshi, Jack, playing as Jack is very much a knowledge check. Playing as Jack, not against Jack, knowledge check of where you can actually place things and how you can effectively abuse it. It's kind of similar to Bear. Bear has a back four. I'm not going to put him in C tier simply because there's so much wrong with Bear. But if you don't know, Bear still has a bug with up back four, effectively being a dragon punch of sorts in certain situations. You can be negative frame with Bear, like -7, -8, and you mash up back four, and kind of similar to Chloe, you just crush things, and it makes no sense. And once again, we're a few months away from Tekken 8, and they're not going to fix this. So yeah, Jack kind of has some things like that. Also, the fact that he has one of the farthest reaches in the game allows you to dominate at mid-game, and his keep out is decent. Unfortunately, once they're on you, it is harder to stop pit bulls, which is a particular problem because the way I see balance in this game, definitely at the top tier is haves and have-nots. Akuma is kind of a pit bull character because he's force 50-50. Kuni, Julia, Steve's not a great example, but Fang, for instance, you can say these three at the bare minimum, plus Akuma, are very pitbull happy. Also, the fact that they can churn steel and this and that and this and that. Damage potential is really high. Jack's damage potential, unfortunately, a little bit on the low end, but he has been pretty well uniform going from Season 4/5.0. The brand new forward 1-2-1 structure is a major difference. That Season 4 style buff that it received. And he has new juice to go with it. So for that reason alone, he still has major problems with frame data and getting pitbulled and wants to get in. But I think at the bare minimum, he should be at least B tier. To play him at his highest level requires like very good knowledge of the game, as well as very good control. And I'll say it once, I'll say it a million times, Sanford Kelly, if you're so good with Jack, you can play like any of these other characters and realistically be better at the game. So again, T7, DLC, arguably maybe pay to win for a time there. But yeah, if you play really well Jack, you can play other characters and even some characters down here, which we'll talk about in a little bit. Like you can just be better by picking a better character. So people, I think, overvalue Jack, and it's like, oh, Jack should be A tier, maybe even S tier. But it's like, no, it's really the pilot. Go ahead. If you think Jack is so easy, I hate this argument, granted. But if you think Jack's easy, play him. Just play him. Then you'll understand how annoyingly frustrating his frame data and the fact of playing an ultra big character is. In this game, ultra big is definitely a liability. And everything that Jack can do, Marta can basically do better too. So, okay. Katarina. Originally, Katarina, I had her in B tier. Katarina, for once again context, is a character who has gotten significant buffs over the years, culminating with Season 4, where she definitely got a good amount of extra juice. Katarina is a character who has a glaring weakness of Harrier stance being her only stance, but the fact in like Season 4, they added so many ways to get into Harrier, becomes a constant knowledge check of how to expect the Harrier and then how to mitigate it. With that being said, the nice thing with Harrier is not only does she have options to mitigate sidestep right and duck, but she can also feign Harrier, which we've seen in a couple tournaments recently, has done absolute miracles. So that's not even talking about the possibility of the I-13 launcher. That's not even talking about the I-11 counter hit game. That's not talking about her wall crush game, back when 2 being one of the best wall crushes, the mix-ups. Also, Katarina also has this kind of Brian balancing where for some reason she's either really negative, slightly-ish negative, like -14, or -10. There's like no in-between with her. And because of that, there are quite a few characters who don't really have great breakpoints against her. So being a pitbull character, a mix-up heavy character, who has these breakpoints of not only her own strength, but then the ability to mitigate, defense against her is really, really rough. Like for me, being a Dragunov player for so long, I never used to hate the Katarina mix matchup because with Dragunov, we had a proper punishment game against her, and we can mitigate risk and then force Katarina to take the risk. But now with Dragunov, of course, Mr. Horrible Mids, and she being -14, we don't really get anything at all. And the fact that I have to take a wall stand 1+2, where I used to take a launcher, is a really, really big change. And keep in mind, this is not like Dragunov specific. There are quite a few characters who just can't hit her breakpoints and punish her where you really need it. On top of that, the really strong I-10 game, again, starts becoming in the upper echelon. So apart from Gigas, no character down here has like a particularly strong 10, except maybe Yoshimitsu for damage. But everyone else's 10 is pretty pathetic. And then it's like, okay, well now we get to Kazuya a Flash Punch. You know, Blue Palm knockdown, plus frame, +4 option, and big damage. You know, as we start going up to the top, Katarina starts to falter. But again, this is very much a game of haves and have-nots. And Katarina halves it a lot. Also, probably one of the best range character in the game. Especially strange considering the fact that, you know, she's a female character with a naturally smaller body. Kind of in a similar vein to Kunimitsu, where Kuni is the smallest character, yet has incredible range. It doesn't really make too much sense, apart from the fact that, you know, Namco balanced that way. But, you know, so be it. Katarina is a pretty well diverse character with both the ability to play keep out, counter hit pressure, pit bowling, just general poking ideas and annoying your opponent to death, literally. That for the bare, you know, at the absolute tip-top level, yeah, she easily is at least A tier. I think she stands above everyone below her, and especially considering the fact that Katarina, just like 2 seasons ago, was hovering like C to D tier, and has slowly made her way up, really gives credence to how important rebalancing and just generally buffing of poor characters really is. You know, we get these like migration from trash tier to upper tier, or at least mid tier, which is kind of where you want everyone to be, and then you can kind of make little small tweaks. But Katarina is a great example of what fixing a character's major weaknesses and just general, not exacerbating, but expanding on your archetype like the game balance really does for her. Okay, Claudio, for context, was in what I used to call S tier, but I call it lower S just for clarification. Claudio basically has it all, and what I've come to understand over time now, I used to play Claudio in 7.0 for context as well. What I'm coming to understand is that Claudio shits out damage, just straight up. He does insane damage, and he's a character who, with rage, has the possibility to easily convert for like 60-70%. And then if the if the planets align and you have perfect wall positioning and your understanding of short carry and back 2 structure and back 4 starburst structure and stuff like that, allows you to squeeze out even more damage. On top of that, Claudio has always been a character who has had decent, really good Oki on wake-up positions, especially by the wall. And then adding the up forward 4, although it is kind of not used, the steel pedal knockover at the wall, is still like, hey, it's better to have it than to not have it. But yeah, there's not much to say. The dude has pretty much everything. You can play him a wide variety of ways, and he still, in Tekken 7, still has a standing 4 counter hit launch, whereas, you know, a lot of characters have been slowly kind of drifting away from it, and by Tekken 8, that won't be a thing. But you think, oh, well, now that Claudio loses it in Tekken 8, that means Claudio is like worse now, right? It's like, no, Claudio is like one of the best characters in the game of Tekken 8. But that's for a completely different reason. But yeah, he's the total package. I mean, what's not to like about it? He has the damage potential of an Akuma, of a Marduk, but with the package, like a hopkick package, which completely, for the most part, apart from Julia and Kunimitsu, I guess, is really against the kind of archetype. So yeah, you can play him quite a few different ways, and he has a ton of damage, ton of options, and for the most part is just generally annoying. Down back 4-3, low high pressure, back 1 invisible pressure, down 3 point, baiting out small whiffs and poor punishment ranges and stuff like that. Yeah, he's the complete total package, and yeah, definitely deserves to be at least upper S for that reason. Okay, Eddy, context, D tier. There's not much to say here. Eddy is a character who definitely gets preyed on by higher tier characters. Claudio shits on him, Lee shits on him. Quite a few characters do shit on Eddy, but the problem is at like the tip-top level, there aren't very many predators to kind of keep him down. Also in season 4 to 5, they made some, I don't know, I can't really substantiate it, but they seemingly have made some change to his grounded and wake-up positions where things that should hit don't hit. So unless your character is a natural predator, like for instance, Kunimitsu annihilates Eddy, in theory. Completely annihilates Eddy. But same thing, you only have one natural predator on the top tier other than Fang, who really, really, really shits on his game plan. And then everyone else kind of gets hurt. Now granted, there are a few exceptions. The Williams sisters, Anna and Nina, do have down 4-1 on 12 that annihilates them, but for the most part, the change to the grounded system where he's no longer in like this kind of float state has really, 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 really helped him out. And I just didn't really appreciate it at the time. Now granted, I'm not going to significantly buff him because there's no like real evidence apart from John Ding doing well with him. That's like, oh yeah, Eddy is definitely like at least B tier, but you can definitely make the argument. But for that reason alone, I'm going to start him with C. As mentioned, I don't think we're going to see any sort of major buffs. And also, apart from John Ding, there isn't too much representation with him. Now granted, there was kind of a renaissance. This was like 3 or 4 months ago with Eddy, you know, like Caelum Bukes, or Caelum Bukes. And there's another Eddy, I can't really think of his name. Where yeah, we were seeing a lot of Eddy. But same thing, I don't think those Eddy sightings were against natural predators. And yeah, Eddy kind of gets hit really hard. The good news is he has a tremendously good backdash, so you can still cause whiffs and issues against him. But for the most part, I think the really thing that like really hard carries Eddy is just the no longer airborne floating state. I think that was, in hindsight, a really great change, and at the same time, I don't know if it was really intended for Eddy specifically, but like Lei, Eddy really benefited from that change. And then it's funny going from old games to this game. You're like, oh, okay, well, I can do this. And you're like, well, no, it doesn't hit. Well, I can do this. Well, no, that doesn't hit either. Well, I can do this, right? No. So, unfortunately, like, the only real answer to, like, grounded Eddy is simply, like, a steel pedal. But, again, what characters have steel pedals that of, like, significant importance, right? You know, Kazuya, Devil Jin. There are definitely more steel pedals in this game, but for the most part, they aren't as nearly as impressive as those. So Eddy, again, kind of gets away with murder quite often. So okay, Miguel, I originally had on S tier / lower S tier. Miguel is an absolute blast to play, and if you've never played him before, I highly recommend playing him. But I think at like the complete top tier echelon, that's I think when he starts slightly faltering. Again, you aren't necessarily comparing against the top tier in this situation. You also are comparing against his peers. So is like Miguel better than Kazuya? Is he better than Law? Is he better than Bob, Brian, so on and so forth? Is he better than Elisa? And I think no, unfortunately he doesn't. With that being said, I think I want to put him in A, but at the same time, I think I still have faith in him. I think he's still a little bit better than the characters beneath him than in the other A tier. So maybe I should add another like sub tier here. But for the most part, yeah, I think he's more A than S in this case. And while I do love playing as him, I understand that kind of similar. You are forced with Miguel, even though he's kind of freestyle with like the ability that you not only enter salve but drop salve instantly. You are kind of forced to play in a particular way, and I think certain characters do naturally prey on him because of that. He isn't in a bad situation like Jack, who effectively can't use his plus frame options. But with Miguel, what small times you have frames, you really have to read against your opponent to not just evade it, but like mash out. And then other times where you do have major frames, they aren't low enough frames that it'd be like, okay, well, I'm gonna do like a sap up forward 3 here, and then it's like, oh, got your dumbass, right, for mashing. It's like, if they're mashing, chances are they're not super good. But the fact that you can do like instant sab and like open field up forward 3 on a read and stuff like that kind of spices it up to be more of like a standing counter at 4 game. But with Miguel, you are forced to do the slower or lower plus frame options and then go for your traps. So like there's that weird kind of in-between state where it's not so clear what you should do. But because of that, that is why he's so fucking fun to play. Miguel is so fun to play. Again, if you haven't played him, give him a shot. If you haven't played Nina, give her a shot. These are all characters who are super, super fun to play, simply because you feel like you are more playing Tekken. And I think by definition, playing Tekken is like mid-tier. Playing Tekken and playing Tekken 7 are like two very, very fucking different things here. So, very, very different. Okay. Noctis, originally had him B tier, simply because, if I remember correctly, same thing. Lack of generic tools and the fact that he can be easily pitbulled becomes problematic. Also, similar to Jack, lack of frames means once the opponent is in, it becomes a really, really, really big hard work like to get the opponent off of you to buy you some space. Of course, Noctis, with one of the best ranges in the game, wants to be playing at like range 1, the point, 1.5, where he can punish whiffs, where he can effectively apply pressure with like 4 for 1+2, down 2, stuff like that. Ranges where you normally don't expect a player to play at is where Noctis thrives, but once they're in, it becomes a problem. The good news for Noctis is that he does have a couple of pretty good anti-pitbull tools. Back to the just frame, air quotes, because that has a gigantic window. 1+2 attack throw has a like a propensity to like high crush. He has the back 1+4 punch parry Sabaki side of style attack, which is now safe on block. So he definitely nowadays does have tools to help break tension. Also, down back 3 is still a super freaking annoying low to basically just not just chip, but to say, hey, get off me in this situation. Of course, again, once they're in, then you have major frame problems, up forward 3 being slower, so on and so forth. So it kind of just leaves up forward 1. But up forward 1 has definitely shown itself to be the monster, I believe I-13 counter tool that it really deserves to be. Up forward 1 does have some weird hitboxes, has some weird tracking to it, and most importantly, not just does major damage, but allows for major carry. One thing with Noctis especially that you don't really appreciate is just how far he can carry with even very basic combo structures. The fact that he can like deep dash 2-2-2-2 and whatnot, or 2-2-2 at the bare minimum, makes such that carry is not really a problem. He is so basic in his play style in strategy, while still being a monster at ranges where people normally don't play. Also, because he's naturally a smaller character, he does have some good mobility to evade. He does have the monster backdash. He has good sidestep, although sidestep 2 isn't the best like counter hit tool. It's more like applying pressure with general evasiveness. But he still has like tricks up his sleeve to kind of get things going. Also, because he is a weapons-based character, that takes away reversals. Sabaki's off the table. Low parry, down 2 can't be low parried. Down back 1+2 can't be low parried. You name it, he has safe mid options with down 1. Down back 1+2. He has quite a big toolkit that once he is in the lead or has like really good pressure, any sort of slight advantage, then it becomes a menace. Then it's like, okay, well, I got to be careful, but I can't backdash too far, And then if I do like a general keep out, well, maybe he'll read it and just launch me for free. In a similar vein to what you talked about earlier, where, typically these top tier characters prey on the weaker. Noctis is a character who naturally preys on what's above him. Noctis versus Akuma, very strong matchup for Noctis. Noctis versus Paul is super fucking frustrating for playing as Paul, a character who has become safer over the years, but still gets trounced by Noctis. But Noctis does have an answer for quite a lot of ideas that, the characters want to kind of use the general playstyle. He can blow things up simply because that I-15 super long-range launcher with a massive hitbox basically allows you to play in a different playstyle and do well, which by definition, going back to what I talked about with God and not God characters, is essentially the same thing. These characters play their own game, and Noctis, for the most part, does play that. So to be fully honest, I was going to throw him in like A tier, but simply because like the list is full, and Miguel, he's probably between A and S, but I think for now, I think S tier is probably pretty accurate for him here. Okay, let's go to Anna first because you know what's coming. Okay, Anna is a character who has definitely had a hard time in T7. For context, of course, I had her in lower tier, C tier. I think with the Season 4 and Season 5 changes, she has become significantly stronger, and what she does incredibly well by forcing 50-50s. Now, that's not to say you can't beat said 50-50s with knowledge by deep stepping and just modified wake up timing. She does not have steel pedal, so she kind of loses when you stay on the ground. But because she executes her game plan so incredibly well with the Season 4, Season 5 buffs, yeah, she's way lower than C tier. At the bare minimum, I'm going to put her in B tier because, again, she plays her game particularly well. But against a really experienced player, she might falter. And especially against characters with stronger punishment and stronger keep out game, she also has further problems. But she plays her game particularly well. And if you don't know how to play against her, you will definitely fall behind. And people who become impatient against her will really, really pay the price. The only thing I think that's mostly keeping her down is while she has like a Magic 4, it does have some kind of wonkiness, like range issues and consistency issues. Also, down forward 1. Thank God it's not further reaching, but down forward 1 with the Williams sisters definitely has some hitbox problems. And she can use maybe a little bit more safety here and there, which would definitely like start catapulting her higher. But yeah, what's not to like about her? Wall stand 3 on 11 into 4 CGM mix-up. She has a pretty strong I-14, especially in certain positions against certain characters. Wall stand 2, if I remember correctly, is like now I-15, or maybe down forward 2 is I-15. I don't know. Whatever they did to her, again, to make her a more balanced character while still leaving her game plan like completely intact, has definitely picked her up from her like trash tier. But she's definitely viable, and I think B tier is pretty accurate where to put her. Okay, Leroy is a character who has, of course, slowly drifted down over the years. During his introduction, he was definitely God tier, being 6 out of 8 characters in EVO Japan. Then, with the slowly over time with the nerfs, the 3.2 nerfs, 3.21 nerfs, Season 4 nerfs, I would put him pretty settled on upper S tier, simply because, again, he forces the opponent to play his game, but at the same time, he has such a unique playstyle with the ability to parry like everything in the game, where it's hard to effectively start offense against him, and then you kind of get mixed up and you get kind of fucked over. So for that reason alone, I had him upper S. But the key word there, or the key phrase, is that you force the opponent to play your game. Leroy has gotten so many nerfs to just becoming much more linear of a character that you really don't have to play his game anymore. The ability to just like deep step around him and cause everything to miss has been completely detrimental to his game. Back 4 no longer not just being a spin option, but being +5 and then pushing him to range 2, where you can't really apply any sort of pressure, and therefore the +5 is completely useless. As such, the back 4 is only useful at the wall. But without a spin, huh? +5? That's like a Falcomlom nerf. Like what were they doing? So he has no homing game, and he has no real tracking game. You're forced to reline constantly. Hermit itself is definitely devalued. In certain matchups, you have to be particularly scared to use Hermit stance, period. Also, the fact that if he cancels Hermit, he's like really, really, really negative, especially with sidestep. Again, if you kind of, as Leroy, sleep on what you want to do and don't stick with your game plan, and then your opponent makes a read, that's it. You're dead. There's nothing you can do. Of course, that sounds more like what a Tekken character probably should be, but from his DLC pay-to-win starting position, it's a massive fall from grace. Even things like 4422 going from -13 to -15 is such a gross overreaction to nerfing him that I don't really understand what Namco wanted to do with the character. Especially weird when you consider how much they buffed him in Tekken 8. To just nerf him into the ground in 5.0 is so strange. Again, this is a character who has gotten nerfed like literally every single patch, and there's characters like Zafina who've literally not got a nerf or a fix. Like, why? I'm gonna stop ranting. He's definitely he still plays the game pretty well, but I mean he doesn't really stand out anymore. Back 2 is the only thing that stands out. In back 2, parry is now -10. Like, why? What does he do particularly well? Answer me, and then maybe I'll buff him. But honestly, he probably deserves to be between S and A. He's fallen off so hard that losing to him at this point is really just a skill issue. He's easy to beat, unfortunately, and he's just gotten way too many nerfs. Speaking of which, I don't know about too many nerfs, because Devil Jin has been a menace for like 3 games straight now. But Devil Jin is a character who I had originally had in Not Quite God, because for a time there he just, same thing, shit out damage, to upper S going into Season 4. But yeah, I mean, the more I play a high-level Devil Jins, I'm literally not afraid to play him. I mean, what are you supposed to do when you're playing against someone who was, same thing, formerly a God character, and I have no fear of playing against them? What is there to fear now? I mean, he always had like the Mishima style sidestep left to evade everything, but now that he has no mid game apart from instant wall stand 2, being a spin launcher, so it hurts your damage potential. It hurts, and it doubly hurts like losing instant wall stand 2, or that instant spin property, simply because once you get the opponent to the wall with decently good carry, Devil Jin does have good carry. That's probably the one thing he has going for him. But once you get him to the wall, back to 1 is gone, right? The Heaven's Gate Ender is gone. It does like a fifth of the damage now. So same thing. It's like, okay, well now he gets a Laser Scraper, and I'm allowed to stand up. Okay, well how about Invisible Hell Sweep? It's like, well, Invisible Hell Sweep does like 40 damage. Oh, okay, well, how about up 4-4? Well, up 4-4 doesn't knock you down. Okay, how about down back 3, right? Down back 3 must be good. Well, no, it's seeable. And then it's like, adds up. It's like, well, how does Devil Jin force initiative? How does he play his game? Well, right? It then becomes, well, you use the really good long-range abilities of Devil Jin to force your opponent to not make mistakes. So 4-4-2, beefy hitbox electric, back 1-2 are very strong. But then, you can play a different character. Why don't you play a different character? So you're playing a worse Mishima, and damn it, dude. You know what? I think lower S is too good for him. And now we're at the weird point where we probably need an in-betweener. And you know what? Screw it. In-betweener. Upper A. Okay. Miguel. Let's see, who else was here? Did I say Katarina? I can't remember. Leroy for sure. Devil Jin for sure. Noctis. Ooh, you know what? I kind of want to leave Noctis on S still. I kind of want to leave him there. Ooh, hard question. This does throw a monkey wrench here. The reason it throws a monkey wrench is because of Leo. So let's talk about Leo. Leo is another character who has gotten significant buffs over 4.0 and 5.0, or Season 4 and 5.0, where Leo is very, very good. You add a wall into the equation, and all of a sudden, she hits like a freaking truck, absolute truck. She hits like a truck, and then has Oki, and in this game especially, that makes it such that there's effectively a two-touch kind of rule against her. You get launched, you get to the wall, you have a 50-50, and then you die. And then on top of that, she still has the incredible counter hit game. Tier lists, of course, are really theory crafting experiments of how strong at the tip-top range a character can be. Leo is for sure a character who, if you were to have like 90-95% accuracy on everything, would probably be upper S, to be honest. But simply because she has all the counter launchers, sliding instant wall stand 3, the knee launcher on pickup would be incredible. Now granted, Leo does require a lot of execution, but her simple game plan is so much stronger in a Season 4 world that it's hard to say anything worse about her. Like, I think Leo is a character who, with the greater resolution, definitely starts kind of making her way upward. And to be honest, I'm going to do it. Yeah, I think Katarina. I think Katarina is probably a little bit better than A tier here. Kazumi has major problems. Ganri has major problems. Heihachi is a menace. Maybe I might even put him up. But there are characters with problems here, and that's usually where the distinction between, again, upper tier and lower tier becomes the thing. It's like the problems with the characters slowly start falling off, and then you have more and more options and more strengths that really stand you out from the rest of the crowd. Okay, Josie. Keep in mind, this used to be A tier, so this was like the center of the stack, where she's really shown herself to have nice little additions to her game in Season 4 or Season 5. But I don't know if that quite keeps her up to pace here. A lot of the characters, same thing, have, in the mid tier, have received either a buff here or a buff there, change here, change there, that make them more rounded. And while Josie did get a few more tools, like for instance, she kind of does have the War Drum style Julia option, I think it's not enough. Whereas, for instance, War Drum 4 Slide 2 with Julia on counter hit guarantees the mid attack, Josie's 1+4, I think it is, doesn't guarantee switch 1 on counter hit. So that means the only range where you can get 1+4 into switch 1 to be guaranteed is at tip range. Now, granted, it is easier to effectively kind of use it. I mean, it's not difficult. Julia's isn't that difficult either. It's actually the other way around. It's important for you on defense to understand where she can place it. But for the most part, yeah, I don't think that change is enough. And the fact that it doesn't do anything on counter hit to allow for you to get something afterwards kind of hurts. Playing hers, it does hurt. Not to mention, she still has massive problems with sidestep right to her sidestep left. Massive problems. 444 is good, but it also is a little bit on the slower end for this type of counter hit, bulldog type of meta. All these characters on the topper echelon here usually have some sort of really good keep out on 10 to 11. And 444 might be a little bit too slow to effectively lock them down. Now, granted, if your opponent's closed up, of course you can get magic to happen, but she just is a little bit too slow, a little bit too linear to effectively force her own game plan. Now, granted, there are actual real buffs like 443 being counter hit confirmable, but still it requires you to be at the wall, and 443 even is pretty light compared to like Lucky Chloe 3-4, whereas Lucky Chloe 3-4 got like a counter hit confirmable launcher. Josie has a hit confirmable like wall crush. Is that really enough? I don't know, and I don't think so. For that reason alone, Yeah, I think she starts falling apart hard in the upper echelon, the higher tier play, where sidestep becomes more natural. So, okay. So, originally in B tier, Lei has definitely shown himself to be a character who can force basically everything. I don't know how to describe it. He has gotten so many buffs over season 4 in going into 5.0 that, yeah, I mean, he can kind of do what he wants, and a lot of characters don't have real answers to him. Now, granted, same thing, in the upper echelon, characters start having real answers to him and have consistent grounding options, so on and so forth. But again, against the rest of the cast, he can kind of do whatever he wants for the most part and get away with it. I think the house sweep is a major addition to his game. I think the fact that he does tremendous damage, it will always be a positive. Again, he's a character who, where your opponent makes one mistake, he can punish you effectively and force you in wake-up positions to be uncomfortable. The only kind of detriment to Lei's game is that he doesn't actually have some sort of steel pedal attack. So in that sense, he's very old school in his pressure on the ground there. But still, the guy shits out damage, has a full counter game, and if you start disrespecting him, especially by the wall, you have to be careful because you might just straight up die. Again, he starts to falter where these characters have naturally good evasion, naturally good sabakis, parries, and stuff like that. Where Fang, Lee, Jin, Geese, Kuni, these characters can basically disrespect this pressure game. But what do you do for your Katarina? What do you do for your Kazumi? What do you do? Hell, what if you do if you're Nina, right? I mean, what do you do against him? And going back to what we talked about with Eddy, is you have the, lack. And let me go ahead and cycle this music here because it ended. When Lei is on a ground stance, he's no longer in an air bubble, so you really can't max punish him until he commits to a certain situation. Otherwise, you're just reading against him specifically. And same thing, you mistime it or you overcommit. Lei has a really good job of really punishing you for making mistakes. I think there is a really good reason why, for instance, Ni has Lei in like top 5 as a tournament character, because he's a character who, as mentioned, you make one mistake and you are basically done. You've lost. And even if you don't make a mistake that you're conscious of, the fact that he has so much evasion, hit confirmable evasion, that leads to tremendous damage or Oki positions or this or that or this or that, is very, very strong. Now, granted, I don't think I can put him into like upper A. I don't think he's quite as strong as a Leo, Katarina. You know what? I think Devil Shits probably should be lower, but I'm gonna leave him up there for now. I already nerfed them two rows here, but still, I don't think. I don't know. This is so difficult because like Lei is like around the world here. Oh man, he's definitely not as strong as Leo. I think Leo is definitely slept on. Although we have seen a lot of success with like Leo. I don't know if he's. Oh man, it's difficult. I think he's in between. Damn it! You know what? I'm gonna put him down. I can't. I think it's easier to justify Lei at least on like solid mid tier than to start getting into the upper mid echelon here. I think that's more accurate. So yeah, that's probably about it. I think that covers it. Comments, questions, concerns. If there's something you don't particularly agree with, feel free to argue down below. Other than that, yeah, I think that's about it. Let me see if I have anything major like off the top of my head I kind of disagree with. I think this is pretty solid S tier. I think this is pretty solid here. I think still pretty solid. Akuma, definitely the best character in the game. You can kind of make the argument with Chloe being a little bit higher tier, but honestly, I think Chloe gets so naturally hunted by quite a few characters that it naturally keeps her down. Gigas, you can kind of make the argument for a little bit higher, but same thing, I doubt it. Asuka has problems. Ling is stronger, but at the same time weaker, and she gets naturally preyed on from my higher tier. You know, at first I was going to put Lily on my list. I was going to put her a little bit higher, but I think Tekken 8 will be her moment to shine. Dragunov, Yoshi. You can make an argument for Nina being higher tier. Maybe I'll make the argument right now. Okay, you know what? Screw it. Nina. Nina deserves to be higher. We have seen so much success with Nina players in both America and the EU that Nina should be higher. Jod immediately comes to mind. God, I can't think of his name. Spear, not Fear. Sorry. God, I see his hair. I see him, the American player. I think they have shown themselves to be so good and so apt in using Nina in higher level. Nina has a super strong counter game. She has a good evasive game. She has a good pressure game. She still has things like sidestep 1 pressure, where you can lock down quite a few characters who really don't naturally do good against Pitbull. She naturally preys on, I think, quite a few of these lower tier characters that she just is naturally stronger while still allowing her to play her game. Now, kind of similar, you can make the argument that Nina will be stronger in T8, but I think she plays Tekken 7 incredibly, incredibly well. Overall, she's a safer character and has even specialty tools that other characters don't have. Like, for instance, Nina and Anna have both down 3-2, which is a natural way to beat Power Crush. And in a game where there's really no answer to Power Crush, despite being taken from, a Street Fighter, having a major counter like down 3-2 that's only, I believe, minus 13 is really, really, really strong. On top of that, as I mentioned, she does play T7 really well. And that's because at the wall, she has the Hayashida throw, which is inescapable, deals 15 points of damage. Or she has Hayashida charge Bomb, where it hits grounded, gives Oki, and then if the opponent techs and ducks, is a natural hit wall bounce launcher. I mean, she plays Tekken 7, like, so strong. Sidestep 1+2 being basically a safe open field rage art attempt. She has one of the furthest hitting rage arts, the ability to convert combos into consistent rage art for damage ender. Butterfly flaps, you name it. This character is a character who has gone through ebbs and flows. And in this game, she's definitely on the upswing. She plays Tekken well, she plays T7 really well, and she's going to play T8 arguably even better. So I'm very excited to see what will come of Nina in the end there. Heihachi character you can argue for upper A. A lot of people shit on Heihachi, but Heihachi is very, very good. The buffs to his range are just frustratingly annoying to deal with. Having this normal-sized character with range almost equaling that of Gigas is absurd. Now, granted, he does have problems in certain matchups, but what's not to like about Heihachi? Very, very frustratingly strong, especially when you play against a character, the lower tier characters who try to play against him and don't have a particularly strong answer for his pressure game. Characters who can't punish 442, so on and so forth. And right you are, Tyler. Here I am editing the video, and I agree. Heihachi should be higher. I mean, I can't remember giving a million reasons why he should be higher and then not putting him higher. So here we are. Heihachi officially in upper A, knocking right on the door of lower S. Also at the same time, talking about Devil Jin. So when I came into this tier list, I really thought about making the balancing or the positional tiers really iterative. Iterative in the sense that, okay, I'm not going to make a character go from like C to A, or sorry, C to like S. But instead, I'm going to make it like, okay, he goes from C to B, and then as I like think about it and or in my mind know what I kind of want to do, then I'll be like, okay, well then we'll do B to A. So small iterations of changes of the character, small change here or there makes a character stronger, but at the same time, we're not going to see like a massive god tier to trash tier like we are going to see with Fakumlam. But The problem is I can't really have an iterative list here because this is it, right? This is it for Tekken 7. This will be the final tier list. So the more I thought about it, the more I didn't really like having Devil Jin solidly mid-tier or upper mid-tier. It's very obvious that, as I mentioned during the video, that, yeah, Devil Jin's not that scary to play against. I mean, TGP, TGO DJs are good, but they're going to be better playing a different character. And it's not so much Devil Jin I'm afraid of, but the person piloting it. So overall, I think it's fair to do a little swap between Heihachi and Devil Jin, where Devil Jin is a little bit lower than I said originally, and Heihachi is a little bit higher to where I was kind of hyping him up in, for good reason. Heihachi, I think, for the most part, does really fit that niche of an easy Mishima, but is very strong nonetheless, with some of the most insane damage possible. So for that reason alone, here we are. This is the final list, and back to you, old Tyler. You get spoiled playing these high-tier characters who you naturally like, oh, I have an answer to this, I have an answer to that. And then you play Kazumi, and you're like, okay, I guess it's not my turn, but I really can't do anything after, so okay, that's cool. Neutral reset, you know, so on and so forth. Eliza can make an argument also for being higher. Eliza plays T7 decently well. Also is a character who, under certain situations, can effectively have an OTK or one-touch kill. Is very, very strong. She definitely has problems, and I think she has slowly kind of drifted down, but I think solidly mid-tier is pretty accurate. So, yeah, I'm not seeing anything else that immediately stands out as incorrect. It's not quite a beautiful bell graph, which I was kind of looking for here. If you combine upper A and lower A, yeah, you have a massive kind of bell graph here. But yeah, that'll do it. Again, comments, questions, concerns. If you don't particularly like where I put someone, please let me know. Also, if I ever see like a small thing here, or maybe something I didn't take into consideration, I'll of course change it on like my Twitch channel. But for this video, this is it. The final Tekken 7 tier list. That is not to say that these characters, again, are not viable to use in tournament, but your mileage may vary. Why put time into a character who, A, won't be in Tekken 8, and B, is low tier? At this point in the game, Sanford Kelly all the way. Pick a top tier. What are you doing? Pick a top tier. Just play a top tier. Get over with it. Swallow your pride. Pick a top tier. Have more fun, because trust me, putting 2 weeks into a high tier character is going to give you significantly better returns than putting 2 weeks into a low tier character. Please pick a top tier. That's it. Tyler 2K signing off. I'll see you guys in Tekken 8.